Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of Srila Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our evening Bhagavad Gita circle reading program. This evening we will be continuing with chapter 7, verse 17. And the chapter is entitled The Knowledge of the Absolute Truth, and it will be read and explained to us by Mother Gita from ISKCON Atlanta. Hare Krishna, Mother. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistha Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Garvani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shrunivadi Paschatya Desatarini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 7, text number 17. Tesham Gyani Nitya Yukta Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate Priyo Hi Jnani Nautyartham Aham Sacha Mama Priyaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me. Purport. Free from all contaminations of material desires, the distressed, the inquisitive, the penniless, and the seeker after supreme knowledge can all become pure devotees. But out of them, he who is in knowledge of the absolute truth and free from all material desires becomes a really pure devotee of the Lord. And of the four orders, the devotee who is in full knowledge and is at the same time engaged in devotional service is, the Lord says, the best. By searching after knowledge, one realizes that his self is different from his material body. And when further advanced, he comes to the knowledge of impersonal Brahman and Paramatma. When one is fully purified, he realizes that his constitutional position is to be the eternal servant of God. So by association with pure devotees, the inquisitive, the distressed, the seeker after material amelioration, and the man in knowledge all become themselves pure. But in the preparatory stage, the man who is in full knowledge of the Supreme Lord and is at the same time executing devotional service is very dear to the Lord. He who is situated in pure knowledge of the transcendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so protected in devotional service that material contamination cannot touch him. Text 18. Udara sarva evai the jnani tva atma ved me matam astita sahi yuktama mam evanutamam gatim. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. Purport. It is not that devotees who are less complete in knowledge or are not dear to the Lord. The Lord says that all are magnanimous because anyone who comes to the Lord for any purpose is called a Mahatma or great soul. The devotees who want some benefit out of devotional service are accepted by the Lord because there is an exchange of affection. Out of affection, they ask the Lord for some material benefit. And when they get it, they become so satisfied that they also advance in devotional service. But the devotee in full knowledge is considered to be very dear to the Lord because his only purpose is to serve the Supreme Lord with love and devotion. Such a devotee cannot live a second without contacting or serving the Supreme Lord. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is very fond of his devotee and cannot be separated from him. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, verse 68, the Lord says, Sadhu hridayam mahyam, sadhunam hridayam tva aham, mad anyatena jananti, naham tebhyo managapi. The devotees are always in my heart. and I'm always in the hearts of the devotees. The devotee does not know anything beyond me, and I also cannot forget the devotee. There is a very intimate relationship between me and the pure devotees. Pure devotees in full knowledge are never out of spiritual touch, and therefore they are very much dear to me. Text 19. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan prapadyate vasudevah sarvam iti sa mahatma sudurlabha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Purport. The living entity, while executing devotional service or transcendental rituals after many, many births, may actually become situated in transcendental pure knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning towards impersonalism. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in the spiritual life, and these activities constitute devotional service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders to him. At such a time, one can understand that Lord Sri Krishna's mercy is everything, that he is the cause of all causes, and that this material manifestation is not independent from him. He realizes the material world to be a perverted reflection of spiritual variegatedness and realizes that in everything there is a relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Thus, he thinks of everything in relation to Vasudev or Sri Krishna. Such a universal vision of Vasudev precipitates one's full surrender to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna as the highest goal. Such surrendered souls, great souls, are very rare. This verse is very nicely explained in the 3rd chapter, verses 14 and 15 of the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Sahasra Shesha Purushaha, Sahasrakshaha Sahasrapat, Sabhumim Vishvato Vritva, Tyatishtad Dashangulam, Purusha Evidam Sarvam, Yad Bhutam Yatcha Bhavyam, Utamrita Vasyeshano, Yad Anena Tirohati. Lord Vishnu has thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, and thousands of feet. Entirely encompassing the whole universe, he still extends beyond it by 10 fingers' breadth. He is in fact this entire universe. He is all that was and all that will be. He is the Lord of immortality and of all that is nourished by food. In the Chandogya Upanishad 5.1.15, it is said, Nave vacho na chakshumshi, na shrotani na manamsati, achakshate prana iti eva chakshate prano hi avayatani sarvani bhavanti. In the body of a living being, neither the power to speak, nor the power to see, nor the power to hear, nor the power to think is the prime factor. It is the life air which is the center of all activities. Similarly, Lord Vasudev, or the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is the prime entity in everything. And because Vasudev is all-pervading and everything is Vasudev, the devotee surrenders in full knowledge. Bhagavad Gita 7.17 and 11.40. Text 20. Kamaistester hrita jnanaha prapadyante anya devataha tam tam niyamam asthaya prakritya niyataha svaya. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires Surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Purport. Those who are freed from all material contamination surrender unto the Supreme Lord and engage in his devotional service. As long as the material contamination is not completely washed off, they are by nature non-devotees. But even those who have material desires and who resort to the Supreme Lord are not so much attracted by external nature. Because of approaching the right goal, they soon become free from all material lust. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is recommended that whether one is a pure devotee and is free from all material desires, or is full of material desires, or desires liberation from material contamination, he should in all cases surrender to Vasudeva and worship him. As stated in the Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, verse 10, Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. Less intelligent people who have lost their spiritual sense take shelter of demigods for immediate fulfillment of material desires. Generally, such people do not go to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they are in the lower modes of nature, ignorance and passion, and therefore worship various demigods. Following the rules and regulations of worship, they are satisfied. The worshippers of demigods are motivated by small desires and do not know how to reach the supreme goal. But a devotee of the Supreme Lord is not misguided. Because in Vedic literature, there are recommendations for worshipping different gods for different purposes. Example, a diseased man is recommended to worship the sun. Those who are not devotees of the Lord think that for certain purposes, demigods are better than the Supreme Lord. But a pure devotee knows that the Supreme Lord Krishna is the master of all. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 5.142, it is said, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasava Bhritya. Only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is master, and all others are servants. Therefore, a pure devotee never goes to demigods for satisfaction of his material needs. He depends on the Supreme Lord, and the pure devotee is satisfied with whatever he gives. Text 21. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhakta shraddhaya chitam achati tasya tasya chalam shraddham tam eva vidadhamyaham. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Purport. God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord, as super soul in everyone's heart, understands and gives facilities to such persons. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, he does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires. Some may ask why the all-powerful God gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying this material world and so lets them fall into the trap of the illusory energy. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord as Super Soul does not give such facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Therefore, he gives everyone full independence, whatever one likes, but his ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad Gita. One should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto him. That will make man happy. Both the living entity and the demigods are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the supreme will. As it is said, Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, persons who are distressed in the material world go to the demigods, as they are advised in the Vedic literature. A person wanting some particular thing may worship such and such a demigod. For example, a diseased person is recommended to worship the sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning Saraswati. And a person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastras or Vedic scriptures for different modes of worship of different demigods. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod. And so he successfully receives the benediction. The particular mode of the devotional attitude of the living entity toward a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigods cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity, but because he is the Supreme Lord or the Super Soul who is present in the hearts of all living entities, Krishna gives impetus to man to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence. In the Vedic literature, it is stated, the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Super Soul is also present within the heart of the demigod. Therefore, he arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of the living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are dependent on the supreme will. They are not independent. Text 22. Sataya Shraddhaya Yuktas Tasya Radhanam Ihate Labhate Cha Tataha Kaman Mayeva Vihitan Hitan. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Purport. The demigods cannot award benedictions to their devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget. So the worship of demigods and achievement of desired results are due not to the demigods, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. The less intelligent living entity does not know this, and therefore he foolishly goes to the demigods for some benefit. But the pure devotee, when in need of something, prays only to the Supreme Lord. Asking for material benefit, however, is not a sign of a pure devotee. A living entity goes to the demigods usually because he's mad to fulfill his lust. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity and the Lord himself does not fulfill the desire. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contradictory in his desires. Devotional service to the Supreme Lord and worship of a demigod cannot be on the same platform because worship of a demigod is material and devotional service to the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. For the living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefits desired by less intelligent living entities who therefore prefer to worship demigods of the material world rather than engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mother Gita. It was pretty powerful. As you were reading, I had to read couple of sentences, go back and read and say, it was very, very powerful. Thank you for reading this. It's a short group of devotees who would like to ask you any questions. But Mother, I have a question, and I'm going to ask Vrinda to go back to verse 19. And I'm just curious to understand if someone asked me that question, because I'm not very clear how to answer that. Go all the way up, Vrinda. Srila Prabhupada was mentioning somewhere, yes, right there. In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning towards impersonalism. Why does that happen, Mother? And yeah, I was just curious about that statement.
I'm curious too.
Yeah, I was just
yes.
trying to understand that.
So here Prabhupada is talking about in the beginning of spiritual realization, which means probably there is still, the heart is still contaminated quite a bit. There's not much purification because it's the beginning stage. And so, like most of us came to Krishna consciousness after we were adults, so we already have a baggage of materialism that we are so conditioned to, before we came to spiritual life, Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is saying that, okay, if since they have just started, then there is a possibility of, I remember now this lady is already initiated, but in the beginning days, when I was preaching to her, she used to come to Bhagavad Gita class, and then gradually you introduce, okay, start chanting. Then there are 4 regulative principles. Then there is offering of the food. And she said, when are you going to stop? You just keep adding more and more and more things to do. So this is a gradual, purification process. So then she asked me, when are you going to stop? When is all? So that attachment is there. And she said, oh, does that mean she literally said that, that, oh, coming to Krishna consciousness, that looks like no sex, no pizza, and things like that. So, because of that conditioning of materialistic life. So then if it is in the beginning stages, then there is a possibility, that one may have the inclination to go back to materialistic life. And in that process may, say, I don't think there is a God, kind of just to, what you can say, just to validate their interest in going back to materialistic life, so that may be an excuse. That is what I can think of right now. I don't know if you want to add something, or Parishit Prabhu wants to add something to it.
No, Mother, I definitely can't add anything, because I was just really, that sentence really had me think, why does that happen? But when you explained it, it definitely makes sense.
An example can be someone who's a drunkard, and then to stop drinking it's like gradual process, so okay, when he's going through that rehabilitation, there is that inclination of going back, oh, I want just one more drink, maybe just a few drops or something, so that falling back is probably there till that, complete, you can say, the system is cleansed of that alcoholism or whatever it may be. So here it's a question of, materialistic life. So there is, we have seen so many examples also where they take up Krishna consciousness, and because of still being attached to materialism, they fall down and they go back, And then I remember my husband and I, we used to preach on, this was probably 20 years ago, on online. There was a program called Pal Talk. I don't know if you heard about Pal Talk. Yes, it was very popular in those days, where we could create our own room. So we created Bhagavad Gita room, and then whoever was passing by would enter the room, and if they like, they would, so we would talk about Krishna and Bhagavad Gita, fixed timings, 2 hours, whatever. And whoever came by would stop by, ask questions, or So there was this one person who would come every day without fail. Now, he never spoke, but from the ID, we knew, that, okay, he's coming every day. And then one day, my husband just asked him, hello, sir, I see you coming every day. And this is my name and this is what we do. Would you like to introduce yourself? He turned on the mic for the first time and he was crying. He was crying. So my husband said, did I offend you in any way? He said, no, no, no. He was Prabhupada disciple. And yes, he was Prabhupada disciple. And he said he had gone back to materialistic life. He had fallen down. But now he feels connected back to Srila Prabhupada. And he decided to now continue. So you see, even though initiated by Srila Prabhupada, still, you see, so that possibility is there, going back or falling down. Or so here, this is the beginning stage of spiritual realization. So there's a possibility, if my material desires are not being fulfilled, then I don't think there's God. And this happened. There was this young couple who used to come personally to our Bhagavad Gita class here in Atlanta. This was also probably 15, 20 years ago. And they were very interested. They started chanting 16 rounds. And then after probably a year, they stopped coming. So one day I met her and I asked her, what happened? You don't come, you all don't come. And she said, I came to class for 1 year. I chanted for 16 rounds every day for a year. And still Krishna didn't give me a baby. So I'm not interested. So you see, so even after chanting for 1 year, 16 rounds, because it's that purification has not taken place, there is a tendency to, fall down. So I hope I explained. I don't know.
Absolutely, Mother. Thank you so much.
Yes, we are
Yes.
very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada came. Yes.
Yeah, there's this really nice post from Prakshit that we are fortunate that Shri Prabhupada has taken us to a level where we can practice the highest. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
In fact, the first I'll read the whole thing because but through the struggle to obey the regulated principles, etc., sometimes impersonalism may seem a little more manageable. It's interesting that
Very true.
Because I was having the same realization, a little bit of it this morning after reading the last verse that we covered in the Bhagavad Gita class, how fortunate we are, to be able to follow and observe the religious principles given to us by Srila Prabhupada, so that so that we can practice the highest, it is to get us to that stage, but it's work.
Yes. And this lady, she said, I don't think there is God. If there was God, if Krishna was there, I would have had a baby by now, So that thought, sometimes comes in the mind that, okay, maybe there is no God. He's not listening to me. That means he doesn't exist,
And Mother says, interesting that you said that, because sometimes I do come across, people, whether they are devotees or not, that actually question that. I've been practicing, I've been chanting, I've been reading, I pray to Radharani, but it's not coming through. So
yes,
why
Krishna
is that?
Krishna is not an order supplier.
I like that.
That's what I told her. That's what I told her, and she got more upset. It's like, I don't. And then guess what? I encouraged her to, continue to chant, and she did. And then she had a baby. After maybe 2 or 3 years, she did have a baby. But this, and also I was meditating on your question on Monday. You were asking me the question. I was meditating on that.
Oh, yes, Mother, please tell
yes,
me.
about that contradiction. And
yes.
So then I thought about the example Srila Prabhupada gives, that so there is the sunshine, there is the sun, and then there is the sun god. All are there in one. Some only see the sunshine. Some know there's a sun planet, and some know that there is a sun god also. So all are there. So we cannot just say that, okay, only sunshine or only sun planet or only sun. They all are there in one. So there's no contradiction. They're all in one.
Thank you, Mother, for meditating on that and gave me the answer. Thank you so much. Thank you. And there's this nice post again by Pritchard. Yeah, it's so true. He says, that's why practice along with devotee association are both very important, especially association with fixed up devotees who would encourage us to go on no matter what. That is so true.
Yes, absolutely.
That is so true. Devotee association. It's funny how sometimes we think that we can just chant and we'll be just fine without any devotees, but we definitely need devotees. There is, and I think, my mother, at least for me personally, just chanting, without devotee association, even when the chanting becomes dry, like it becomes like, well, we definitely need devotees.
Well, you have 3 devotees in your house, you can chant with them.
They remind me, I remind them, we help each other, Mother. Yes, it's so nice. We are very fortunate actually to have devotee associations. Sometimes I think about, there are a couple of devotees that I know who serve in the army, and they go away and they have no devotee association. They just have their chanting beats and Prabhupada's books, and and they're still so strong.
Yes, absolutely.
It's amazing. And menial service is the key. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing. That is so true. Menial service is the key. It helps us to remind us that we are das anudas.
And menial service of devotees, then, not that we do service only for spiritual master or no, it starts with any devotee, whatever stage it might be. The more we serve, the more we get purified.
Yeah, very true, Mother. So true. And these verses are so powerful because it's interesting. Yes, menial service to devoted. I strongly agree. Yes, thank you. His voice is not back, so he's doing more typing, Mother. That's what it is. But yes. And Mother, there's one more thing I wanted to ask, just for Brinda, if you can go to verse 22. I really liked how Srila Prabhupada addressed this whole idea of demigods and Krishna. It almost sounded, and I think it's this verse, Mother, it almost sounded like as if that Krishna is giving the green light to the demigods to fulfill the material desires of the prayer, which is interesting. Like I said, but is that what Mother Prabhupada is actually saying? Because that's what is coming to me.
He is just trying to explain to us, the difference between demigod worship and worship of Krishna. And more importantly, that whatever benedictions that demigods are giving are coming from Krishna himself, right? So Krishna is there, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sanivishto, he's there in everyone's heart, and he's fulfilling the desires. He's saying, okay, I'm here. You want me? I'm here. If you want someone else, go there. So the idea is that we may have the desire, but the ultimate sanction comes from Krishna. And that's why he's given us the knowledge, he explained to Arjuna for us the difference between demigod worship and worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because even the demigods, they get the power to give the benediction because it's coming from Krishna.
Yeah, that was pretty powerful. Krishna does not interfere with what we want. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, he doesn't. He wants us to come to him on our own free will. Yeah.
Yes. I always use this example that if my husband doesn't love me and I put a gun on his head and say I love you. Come on, say I love you. Out of fear, he'll say, oh yeah, I love you. But that's not real love, that I'm forcing, him to say that he loves me. It has to. So Prabhupada explains that it has to come from within. You really want to love Krishna. And for that, He has to give us that independence, whether we want to love him. Like he says, sarvasya cham hidis mataha smriti jnanam apohanam cha, that from me comes knowledge, remembrance, or forgetfulness. So we choose what do we want out of these three, and based on our desire, then he sanctions it. That, okay, you want to fall in the well, go ahead, tathastu, go fall.
That was really nice, Mother. Thank you so much. Any questions from devotees? Any thoughts? Any reflection? Very powerful verses. Somehow I feel, when we finish the first 6 chapters, now we're going to the second set. It's getting really, really like we're really getting in it. This is getting pretty deep, and I'm really relishing it. So thank you, Mother, for reading it. If there are no questions, would like to just remind devotees about our Sunday program. We have a guest speaker coming in from New Jersey, His Grace Bhushara Prabhu, who is a senior Prabhupada disciple. So please do join us for this Sunday class. Until then, we look forward to seeing you all on Monday morning for our Bhagavatam class, and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much, Mother Gita. Vanchakaptubhyascha kripasinubhevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mother.